Hi, this is your girl Habiba. Thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. It's very easy to do so. Just hit the subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell icon. Today, let's talk about a very interesting topic that is on a lot of people's minds, and that is the main reason why Canada is closing its borders all of a sudden. Okay, a couple of years ago, Canada's borders were wide open, loads of streams, loads of opportunities, loads of international students, coming into the country. And all of a sudden, this year, the past few weeks, the past few months, Canada has said they're going to close its borders. They're going to reduce the number of skilled workers and international students coming into the country. Okay, so let's talk about the main reason so that you understand and you have an idea of what is really going on in Canada. Let's get started. So before I go any further, let me just put this out there. This is my opinion, okay? But if you ask anybody in Canada who's going to be honest with you, they will tell you the main reason why Canada is closing its borders is because of politics. It's because an election, a federal election, is on the horizon. And somebody will be asking, Habiba, what does election and politics have to do with Canada closing its borders? We're going to really unpack it right now. Okay. Now, I did a video last week where I talked about some things that are happening in Canada, housing crisis, not enough affordable housing, the health crisis, not everybody has a doctor, and a lot of people will say the issue is because of population growth, because a lot of immigrants have come in. Okay, now, yes and no. What is really happening, okay, the reason why Canada is closing its borders is because there's a federal election coming up shortly, in the next couple of months in Canada. And what happens during elections is that politicians want to obviously get people to vote them. And the people that will vote are the Canadians, people living in Canada. Now, the way people go about it is, let's look at, for instance, the American elections. Okay, a lot of people say incoming President Trump won because people voted. Americans were tired of the open borders with Mexico, and also Americans want a better economy. Okay, so they voted for Trump and not for Kamala. Now in Canada, there was a poll that went out, and about 60% of Canadians said that for the first time in over 25 years, they see immigration as a problem. If you go out and you talk to Canadians that were born here, immigrants that came to Canada and are now Canadians, and immigrants that are JJC that just landed Canada, if you ask them what one of the biggest issues is in Canada right now, they'll tell you immigration. Okay, if 60% of the population say immigration is a big factor that is affecting the housing crisis, the educational crisis, in some provinces, you have schools, daycares, not enough loads of kids in them, but not enough teachers and stuff, okay? The health crisis, not everybody has a family doctor. People have been on waiting lists for years. So you go around and you ask Canadians, they would say it's immigration. Now, what politicians do when an election is coming is that they capitalize on the things that are most important to people. And right now, what is most important to Canadians here, what they see as an issue, as a factor that needs to be dealt with, is immigration. So in the next couple of months, there's going to be a federal election in Canada. And I think it's going to be very interesting. As someone living in Canada, Yes, it might not be as interesting as the American elections that we just watched, but I think it's going to be very interesting because the politicians, the conservatives, the liberal government, NDP, are going to capitalize on this issue of immigration. And they're already capitalizing on it. Let's talk about how they're capitalizing on it. The current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who is the head of the Liberal government, has come to say, we need to pause on some immigration streams. We need to reduce the number of international students coming to Canada. And his reasoning behind this is that things need to be done better. There's some people that are taking advantage of the system. Yes and no. It's all part of the political play. And then you have the conservative leader who has said, when he comes in, it's going to be Canadians first. Now, they've all seen, or the leaders of both parties have seen, what is important to Canadians right now: immigration. What do politicians want? They want the people to vote them. So whoever is going to have the best immigration policy that Canadians want to see would likely be the party that comes out on top. So again, it's all about politics. Cast your mind back to the US elections. President Trump focused so much on the border, closing it up to Mexicans, closing it up to, illegal people coming in. And apparently that was top of mind for Americans and also the economy. And he promised he could do that. So people went to vote. So now we have the Canadian politicians saying, vote me in and we would handle this, immigration issue. So that is exactly what is happening here in Canada. I've been in Canada for 5 years. Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Prime Minister, has been in charge. During his tenure, the borders have been open. Canada was one of the most accepting countries in the world. Each year, hundreds of thousands of people immigrate to Canada legally. And now, all of a sudden, after 5 years, policies are changing because now Canadians are like, whoa, we need to pause this for a bit. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I was talking to some friends not too long ago, and people actually feel that if the Liberal government win next year, whenever the elections happen, the borders will be open again. Maybe, maybe not. People feel if the Conservatives win, the borders will be tightened up. Nobody actually knows. But I can tell you that what's happening right now with Canada closing its borders is all politics 101. So I think next year is going to be really, really interesting. So you definitely want to stay tuned, keep watching Biba's Canadian journey. And I hope that you've been able to understand what is going on this political sphere here in Canada and why the borders are closing and why a lot of streams, there's been a pause, there's been a hold on a lot of streams. Okay, now, like I said in my video last week, this is not to scare you. If you want to come to Canada, the borders are still open. Yes, the policies are tighter now, but if you meet the criteria and you want to come to Canada, if you have any questions, you can drop a question in the comment box, or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Biba's Canadian Journey. Until next time, take care.